Welcome everybody, Drum Education Live episode number 73, and today we have the amazing Rick Stojak. Yeah!
Hey everyone! Thank you so much for having me, guys. I'm a big fan of this show. I've been watching it a lot.
No pressure then, Kira.
Oh, man.
Let me start from the beginning. I realized seeing your videos and your website and one of the episodes on Drum Education Connection. Sorry, Drum Education Connection that we're going to talk about. That we think very alike. You know,
Yes.
like making people play a song is more important than how fast they play their paradiddles. You know,
That's right. That's
so
right.
my first question for you is, how do you build a drum group?
Oh, that is a great question. And I tell you, Felipe, no one's ever called me up for a gig and said, "Hey, man, I want to hire you, and I want paradiddles at 260 on your feet." No one wants that. They're like, we want you because we want to make the band groove, you know, and that's the most important thing: the pocket, the feel, the sound. And I realized that as an educator, that getting drummers to play and getting them inspired by just playing along to straight up songs that have steady beats was really, really helping them out, and they were getting really, really inspired. So I came up with a book series. It's called How to Build a Drum Groove. So write in with your question. And what I do is I pair a straight up beat. So you're going to have boom, bop, and then you could play to Billie Jean or Take Me to the River by Talking Heads. And then I'll have a playlist that might have 10 or 20 beats that are steady for the entire song. And that way, they're grooving along. They're musicians. One lesson and you're a musician, and you're doing the most important thing that you need to do as a drummer. And then we can start talking about the beats per minute. You know, I'll list the songs slowest to fastest. So a student will have an idea of what playing at 70 beats a minute is, and or slower, and all the space between the notes and how hard that is to feel. And so they really start understanding tempo and groove. And so I just feel that the best way to build the groove is actually, or one of the best ways, is to start playing along to music and using songs that you like to do that. Of course, playing along with a metronome is really gonna help that, which I think we all know. But you know, man, it's a different era now, man. Society wants stuff fast, man. It's not like when I was teaching, 15 years ago, where, people's attention spans are shorter. So kind of that instant gratification works.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep. That's fair. It's cool with me.
True. Yeah. But I think it's a point of entry, because from there, then you can take to the serious stuff.
Oh, the paradiddle. It's a scary word.
Kira.
Is that how you got into drumming? Through just playing to music? What was it like for you starting drums?
Oh man, that's a great question. Well, look, I have to credit and thank my late brother Robert, who we lost about 5 years ago. He was a guitarist. He was 5 years older than me, and he was into it on the guitar. He was a brilliant guitarist, and he needed a drummer. And so when I was little, I remember just watching all these old TV shows, and I'd hear those drum parts. Remember Hogan's Heroes? I would freak out, man, when I heard all those drum parts, or
Hawaii 5-0.
Hawaii 5-0, Petticoat Junction. Remember that old show? And they had a cool little train beat in the intro. I would hear all that, and I was just inspired. And my mom said, I just couldn't get you to stop stop air drumming and tapping. And so, of course, when my brother started off with bands, he had the classic garage band, and the drummer brought his drum set in. I'm about 12, 13. And they said, of course, hey, Ricky, don't touch those drums. Right, don't touch those drums. That's not gonna happen. No way. So, you know what, of course. So I think I had a little bicycle chain, and I just sort of, I tapped the floor tom. And it was like magic. It was like I had a magic wand, like I discovered something just wondrous and amazing. And I did. I was right. It was wondrous and amazing. And so my parents said, well, if you're going to play drums, you're going to take lessons. We're going to do this. We're going to do this right. And so they signed me up with lessons, and then I started jamming with my brother. And then I got into school band. So thank God for the school band too. So the combination of all of these things really, really helped. And then my oldest brother, who's 8 years older than me, he's like a big rock fanatic, blues fanatic. So when I was little, there was all this great music in the house, like the rock stuff. I heard Hendrix and 10 Years After, and then Queen, and of course Zeppelin. And I remember watching the Monkees. Guys, remember the Monkees show?
Yeah, of course.
And they were all in a band, and they were always having fun, and they were always cool. And so all these little things just are so inspiring. And so, man, it really lit a fire.
Cool. And talking about the lessons, how different from the lessons you teach today or the lessons you took?
Oh, that's a really, really good question. Well, I grew up in Middletown, Connecticut. I had a great drum teacher. This guy's name was Emile de Leon, and he was a student of the great jazz legend, Ed Blackwell, who played in my city, who was like a top avant-garde jazz drummer. So Emile would start me off. We'd be on a drum pad for a good part of the session, working out of stick control and doing all that and working on technique. And I was so into it. I was so focused. I just really, really wanted to do it right. And so I put a lot of time into that, working on stick control. And then we worked out of the Roy Burns drum set books. And Roy Burns, the late Roy Burns was my mentor and great friend. And I've been an Aquarian artist since 1998. And so to actually end up meeting my idol and hero, like, I learned from you, Roy. It was just great. And so I learned out of your books, and so I would say it's a little different now because I am putting a little bit more attention on working on beats right away to songs, and we just didn't have those resources back then. But I am grateful for the resources I had, and I really worked with them. The result isn't so obvious with some of these older books that don't use songs, and even stick control. It's not obvious, And so I had the fire under me to just do it. So now with younger students, I think there's so many distractions out there that you've got to get it right to the point right away.
Yeah.
And then if I do have a student who's really, really into it, I do kind of go back to, hey man, let's work more on stick control, and I pepper in technique as much as I can. But I pepper in the technique while they're playing the beat, and that we make corrections as we go, I guess.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So.
So was there a moment when, you get your drum kit, you're having your lessons, is there a moment where you're like, this is it, this is what I have to do for my career?
Yeah. In high school, I was just a freshman, and there was a senior, so just to hang out with a senior who was a drummer, and we started a drum group. And that was cool. How it is, you're a little insecure being a freshman, you know, and I could hang out with the older kids. And this guy was cool. This could be, he played the tri-toms in the marching band, you know. I'm like, man, I want to do that. I'm too little to even play him. I'm so short. I'm like, oh man, I can't play that, but I'm on the snare. And so we started a drum group called Total Percussion.
Love it.
It was so great. And we created these, you know, 40-minute percussion ensemble kind of things. You know, we borrowed the timpani from our school, and we put a ride cymbal upside down on the timpani and did a cymbal roll on the timpani. And then if you move the pedal on the timpani, you know, you hear the cymbal roll, but you hear like the cymbal pitch start changing too. And so we incorporated all this Larry kind of stuff into the sound. And so we did a talent show, and I got a solo, and I got a big ovation, and at the and that was it, Kira. I was like, this is what I'm doing.
Oh, I love it.
Yeah, and my brother, you know, my brother Robert, he's just a brilliant guitarist. He was already, you know, working in the scene, you know, playing in the original punk scene in New York City. So he was already like full on in it. So I have to credit him for really like inspiring me. And then by the time I was 16, I played CBGB in New York, and that was my first gig. He brought me into that.
No way.
Yep,
That's
yep.
so cool.
It was such a great start. And I was a mega Cheap Trick fan among a million other bands. But Bunny Carlos from Cheap Trick was there at CBGB. Now, I didn't see him, but everyone was talking about it. And they said he liked the band. Well, I don't know if he did. You know, they told me that. It inspired me.
Of course he did.
Too, so of course he liked the band.
Wait, and that was your first gig there?
That was my first gig, yeah. Man. Yeah. Well, first gig like in a club. Total Percussion, you know, we did while I was still, you know, a little bit before that. So first gig with a band in a club, yeah. And then we played Max's Kansas City. So we grew up in Connecticut, so you could get to New York City in 3 hours.
Yeah, cool.
Those were the days, man. You're just driving with your brother to a gig, and you're listening to your cassettes. I still have the old cassettes over there, you know. Pretty fun stuff.
Nice. Who's your first influence as a drummer?
The very first one, man. Probably Keith Moon, man. Moon just laid it down, and you know, he was a showman. Yeah. And it was just so fun. It's, you know, everybody's just sort of laying back, and there's Keith Moon. It's just like, ah! You know, just insanity. So, and of course, John Bonham. I'm sure you've heard that over and over, you know. But I really like the punk drummers too, because I really, you know, kind of came from that New York City punk scene in the 80s. So Clem Burke of Blondie just blew me away. I just love his passion and his groove and intensity, and, you know, just playing it like you mean it.
Yeah.
You know?
Talking about punk, can you create a parallel between punk in America and punk in England? What's the difference in terms of drumming?
Well, the punk in England is better. I'm gonna get myself in trouble. A difference in the style. Well, you know, I think that original punk was super. I think like Ramones and Dead Boys. Well, they were, you know, when I first think of punk, that real, and you know, those were like, you know, they were really happening in New York at the time. You know, like that fast eighth note kind of vibe, and so I think more like when I think of the English punk, I think more of the Sex Pistols, which you know, all like a little bit more accent, right? God Save the Queen, Anarchy in the UK, you know, I think the English stuff had a little, I don't know, maybe a little bit more something to it, but the American punk was just so in your face.
Yeah.
But then I think that the American punk sort of like quickly changed from like a fast 2/4 to like the real upbeat boom tick 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 boom tick. So it's an interesting thought. I'm going to think more about that, like parallel between the English and the American punk bands.
Cool.
Yeah.
Kira.
I wanted to talk about your books. Because
Cool.
you've got a few, is it 3 or 4 How to Build a Drum Groove series?
Yeah. I have 3 books, and I'm working on the 4th book right now. And this has been over a 10-year process of writing these books.
Wow.
And every single page has been beta tested on students. So what's happened with that is the students are involved, they're engaged. And I'll say, hey, I just heard a new song. Here's the drum beat. Let's see if you can play it, because I'm thinking of mentioning that song in my book. And then they're like, play it, and they're like, man, I love that song. I never heard of that band before. I just love that track, and I can play to it. I'm like, well, thanks, man. I'm just glad that you dug it. I'm gonna add that book. Thank you for helping me out. And so that gets the students engaged in writing the book. And it also makes the drum lessons fun for me, because I'm not just giving a drum lesson here every day. I'm writing books and testing them out. So earlier books that I worked out of before I created my own series jumped right into 16th notes. And I felt like right away, you know, not everybody's out there to be a professional drummer or has the time and dedication, but they want to be able to do it, right? So I just started writing out 8th note beats, you know, hi-hat 8th notes. I don't know if you can see this or if this is too much to show, but you know, whole page of backbeats.
Yeah.
I like how you've done that. I like how you've got one book which is 8th notes, and then you've got another one which is 16th, because there's so much. There's so much to cover. You don't want to rush it, and you want to be invested in it. Don't rush this good stuff, because there's so many good ideas there. But what was your initial spark for doing it? Was it because you couldn't find the material you wanted in other books?
Yeah, Kira, that's exactly it. And you're thinking, well, there's a million drum books that have been written, and some people would say the last thing we need is another drum book. And I thought, well, I don't know. I don't seem to be finding any one drum book that is getting people to groove to songs. Now you might see an example, like here's the beat that Clyde Stubblefield played for 1 minute in a, you know, like for 20 seconds in the song, but you can't play along to that. So, and then one day I did have a student, he said, you know, it'd be cool if you had a list of songs that I could use that beat. And so, right, we can learn so much from our students. So yeah, that's it. So the whole first book, Quarters and Eighths, and the funny thing about it is people think, well, this is easy. And it's not really, you know? I mean, if you start taking out notes, you know, just playing on the ands, you think about all the hi-hat permutations, you know, taking any beat, bringing it to the ride, and then doing hi-hat 2 and 4, or hi-hat foot quarters, or hi-hat foot ands. You know, that's the creative stuff, but it's not easy to do. So,
and one thing I found that's quite amazing is a lot of people who, you know, can play their paradiddles at 230 beats per minute. When you put the 4 on the floor with the backbeat on 2 and 4 and 8th notes on the hi-hat, they cannot hold that beat for a whole minute.
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. So the first book came out in 2012, and the second one, the Mastering 16th Note Grooves, I'm gonna send you guys these books too, of course.
Wow, thank you.
We'll send them. Oh yeah, we'll
So
send them.
the only problem with that is if you send me that book, I'm gonna send mine to you.
Oh, that's no problem, man. I have a wall of drum books over here, man. I love it. The last book that I'm working on is well, the third book is the drum fill book. Now,
Okay.
each of those books has over 300 hit songs
Wow.
listed, and then I put the songs up on my YouTube channel, so everybody can access those songs.
That's
And then
great.
on YouTube, I'll list the song. We'll have the original recording. If I could find a karaoke version, I'll put that up too, so people can see the lyrics, so a drummer can relate to what's going on with the lyric. There's
So
some
important.
occasionally you're finding some YouTube that are minus drums. So I'll put different versions and a live version, try to give people like a live gig feeling here when they're studying. And that way they don't have to search for all of the songs. So it's all up on YouTube. So just go to my YouTube channel and look at playlists.
Cool.
Did you need to get permission to do that, or how does that work for you?
That's a good question. You know, as you know, well, I'm not putting out a recording of those songs. So the songs are all up on YouTube. And by just referencing a song, that's not violating any type of copyright, you know, and I'm grateful for all the big hit songs and all, but you know, boom, tack, boom, boom, tack. You don't, no one owns the rights to that. So, you know, drummers don't get as much songwriting royalties, but
Yeah. I guess that's why
sucks.
that's why Neil Peart started writing lyrics.
Yeah.
You gotta get in there, drummers. Find a way.
Gotta learn to write some songs. That's what we have to do.
Yeah.
Well, there's that joke, you know, what made the drummer get fired?
What made the drummer get fired?
He arrived in the rehearsal and said, "Hey guys, I just wrote a song."
Oh, I
So
love
bad.
it.
Don't worry, that bit's gonna be out as well. I'm gonna cut that bit out as well.
No. Live. It's drum education live. So
Yeah, but live is just a name. The name is live because we were gonna do the clinics,
Yeah.
and then it didn't happen.
We
So
didn't. Yeah.
we just didn't change because it would sound terrible. Drum education recorded. So we just kept it live.
We just kept it.
Well,
So let's go back to let's try to talk about your books.
okay.
So the first one is 8/4 and eighths.
Yep.
The second one is 16th notes.
Yeah, it's a little thicker.
Yeah.
Yep.
More
There's
notes has to be thicker.
Yep. And we've got you know, I start with and a beats.
Oh, okay.
Oh,
Right.
Cool.
All kind, you know, and you know, all of the combinations that are relevant, right? You have and the snare on the followed by a kick. Then you can do the kick on the followed by the snare, you know, an and just followed by a hi-hat. And you know, all of the really you know, the combinations that do exist. So so it's taken years to write this, because then you'll see little headphones and those parallel to a playlist also.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah. And so there's
All right.
you can see
Brilliant.
some samples on my website. You know, and it's so funny in all of the different, you know, social media drummer groups out there. I'm always seeing a post, hey, I'm looking for some songs to get my drummers started. And I think a lot of these drummers just want some free stuff with a few songs.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
I've done that. It's 10 years of research to do that, and it's just progressively gets a little bit more, involved or complex. The last book is just a drum fill book. There's over 2,000 fills in here.
Wow.
What?
Yep.
How did you
And
even come up with all of that? It's astounding.
Oh my gosh, I think it's just passion, and I just love drumming, and I love being the best teacher that I can possibly be.
And a little bit of craziness as well.
A little bit of craziness, and a very patient wife. My wife's a drummer, and she's super patient, and so
Cool.
I'm always writing with free time. We're flying, if we go on a trip. When we used to go on trips, I'm writing out in the air, on the flight. I'm writing the whole time. So I haven't had any real downtime in 10 years because I'm just constantly writing this. And, I think a lot of teachers work on getting better on the drums, which of course we all do because we love, but I try to work on being a better teacher. That's where I put a lot of my focus. Like, how can I do this better? And what information can I uncover to be able to share? And then I find that makes me a better drummer. So my practice has just been, writing these books, and just evolving it. So, right, because if you're a drum teacher, you're probably 10 steps ahead of your student anyway. So you're going to gain more students and inspire them more to get 20 steps ahead of them? Not really. You've got to figure out how you're gonna inspire them and teach them and give them something concrete to work with.
Especially
So that's what
because,
the books do.
yeah, because in my experience, for example, I usually teach from beginners to intermediate. It's very rarely that I'll have an advanced student.
Yeah.
And for them, just the fact that I've been playing drums for over 35 years is so way out of their league that they actually don't care what I'm able to play or not.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Because they know, yeah, this guy's been playing drums for more than 35 years. Of course, he's going to be much better than I am. I want to have fun,
Right. Yeah, Felipe. And you don't want to intimidate them too much.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe a little bit at first. Just so
Well, there's a
Fine
funny
line.
story. Because I rarely play in front of my students because I don't want to discourage them, right? Rarely.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
many years ago, I was playing in a band, and the keyboard player met this girl that he used to go to school with, and she was with her husband, and he was talking to her and said, well, funny thing is, I'm 30 years old and I joined the band. And the girl said, well, my husband, he's 40 years old and he started playing drums. And the keyboard
Nice.
player in my band asked the husband, so are you enjoying your lessons? They say, yeah, very much. And is your teacher good? And the guy said, well, he's very good teacher, but I don't know if he can play because he never plays.
Yeah.
But he's a very good teacher.
But he's
And
a
the
very
keyboard
good
player in
teacher.
my band said, oh, the guy in my band, he's an amazing drummer and an amazing teacher, so I'm going to give you his number. And then you call and then you have a lesson. Back in the day, before mobiles and everything, the guy wrote down my number on a piece of paper, and the guy who was having lessons looked and said, but that's my teacher.
Oh,
No.
Oh, wow. That's so cool.
That's so nice.
Oh, wow. Oh, man.
That's
So
lovely.
next lesson, because then I had a rehearsal and the keyboard player told me the story. So before the guy had his next lesson, so when he came for his next lesson, I said, okay, I'm going to play now because you think I cannot play.
I love it. Yeah, sometimes with those teenagers, you got to alpha them a little bit. You
exactly.
know?
Yeah.
You know, a little bit.
I hear you. Yes, I've got the teenage boy I'm teaching at the moment, and sometimes you get a bit of pushback, and then I'm like, right, let me just show you. And then he's like, all right, you don't have to show off.
Yeah. Kira, you just gotta smoke them. Just like, look at this. Kira breaks out the 260 double paradiddles with her feet.
Yeah, is it up, son? This is how you do it.
If I were you next time, because you Kira, you love odd meters. I would play, and you love odd meters that don't start with the bass drum. So I would play one of those and just tell him, what's the time signature, Paul?
He'd just be like, as teenagers do, don't
know. I don't know. I just play.
I don't know what you're doing, but I can't do it, bro. You know, whatever.
Yeah, let's go back to. Remember, we have Rick here.
Yeah, I know.
So let's go back to Rick.
Well, I wanted to ask you. Okay. You said your wife is a drummer.
Yeah, my wife Julia.
How did you meet?
Oh my God, at a gig. So being in a band can pay off, after all. Yep. So I rehearsed at a studio, and my wife's sister is a heavy metal guitar virtuoso, Laura Christine. Her husband is Gene Hoglan, so we could get into that later. But so I was at a gig and had gone through a divorce, and I'm playing with a psychobilly band called Bambula up in San Diego. And there's Laura, because she rehearsed at the same studio, so I knew Laura, and she had her band Warface. And she's there watching the show with this beautiful woman with a beautiful parrot tattoo go all the way down her arm, and a cool dragon over here. And I was just amazed. So I went over and, hovered around. You gotta put yourself out there, man, right? You have to, or the world's gonna pass you by. And I had and I asked I said, are you a musician, to my wife Julia? And she said no. And I said, you look like a musician to me. And turns out, well, she played a little keyboards, and she was the drum major in middle school, which is so her, because she's a very confident person. And so I had my card. And this was I said, if you ever want a free drum lesson, I'd be happy to give you a lot. And I'm like, oh my God, I'm so bad here.
That's the perfect pickup line. This is the perfect pickup line.
Man.
I wish I was single now.
My wife, I can only imagine what Julia was thinking. And like, oh my God, this guy is clearly trying to pick me up. And so I was giving her the card, and she was like that, pushing away. And Laura was like, take the card, take a drum lesson. So Julia took the card, and she called me up, and then I was out on tour with Barnyard Ballers, so I made her wait for 3 weeks.
Wow.
Which I didn't have the time, at that time. And she came in for her first drum lesson, and we clicked. And I broke every drummer protocol ever. I asked her out. Every teacher, I did. I confess. I asked her out for coffee during the drum lesson.
Oh, I love it. Yeah.
Which I would never. I don't know. That was the first, obviously. And she. No, I think I said beer. I said, you want to go out for a beer? And she said, no. And then I said, coffee? and she ended up, and then like the lesson didn't go well for about a minute when because she's like, I don't think so. And I think, man, and then I apologized. I'm sorry, I did that. She goes, no, let's go out for coffee. And so we had a 3-hour coffee. And she just got so into drumming, and she has the fastest double bass drumming. You just wouldn't even believe it, how
Wow.
fast. And she was just so into it. So as it turned out, you know, Laura, her sister Laura's band Warface, Julia owned a small record company called Deathquake Records to support Laura, and Julia owned a drum kit, a double kick pearl kit. So she owned a drum kit to help support the band. So I didn't know any of this, that she already owned drums. And so she started playing with a family friend, a guy who was in Warface, and started this like 2-piece death metal kind of project, and called Desecrated Throne. And Julia was just unstoppable. And Gene will tell you, like Gene Hogan is, our brother-in-law, he'll say Julia's feet are the fastest there is. And
Wow. If Gene says that, I'm amazed.
yeah, you can check with him. We'll get him on. We'll bring him on the show sometime if you like. And
Oh, please, yeah.
And oh yeah, yep. But the style really wasn't, exactly, Julia's passion to listen to. It was really, really fun to play that kind of music, but death metal, extreme metal wasn't really, really her thing exactly. So now it's great. We listen to music all the time and point out what the drummers are doing, and she watches every show that we do. It's so
lovely. I love that.
I remember when I was doing gigs up in Hollywood with Barnyard Ballers, and she was coming up with me, and I'm loading out. I'm just using kind of a 4 or 5 piece kit, but I like cymbals, as you can see. I'm a cymbal.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of cymbals, and she's like, "This is just too much work. I don't know if I really want to be a drummer." Like, shit, I'll help you set up. Don't worry.
Yeah, that's one of the things of getting older. Whenever there's a gig, my first question is there a kit there?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And people say, yeah, there is one. It's not very good. That doesn't
That's
matter.
okay.
Yeah, it's fine.
I'll use it. I could do it for this one.
That's right. That's right. That's my favorite. When there's a back line and drums are there, I'm good. Bring a snare pedal, cymbals.
Yeah, exactly.
Some backup heads.
Yes, and that's it.
That's even more prepared than me. I bringing heads. I'm like, nah, I'm gonna risk it. I'm gonna just go, turn up, go.
Do you know Aquarian has a patch that you could put on a broken kick drum head? It's like the kick patch.
Wow.
It's like a flat tire. Yeah.
I was thinking that. Yeah, like a flat tire thing.
That's what
yeah.
you need.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's like, when you have like a power dot. It's like a power dot that's sticky, and so I don't take bass drum heads with me, but I always take that back up. Just in case.
That's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Man, you guys are fun to talk to. This is awesome.
Well, we're glad to hear it.
Well, I'm a big fan of your show. We have compatible shows.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's talk about that. Let's get into that, because you've got Drummers Education Connection.
Yeah.
Which was born out of lockdown, I believe.
Yes.
So tell us a bit more about that.
Well, Chip Ritter, who you had on the show not long ago, who's out in Arizona. I knew him from through Aquarian Drumheads. Called me 2002. It was like August 2020, right in the middle of lockdown, and he said, "Man, I'm just feeling that we should be chatting because there's something." And Chip is tapped in a lot of ways. He's a very brilliant individual, and he didn't know what it was, but he knew there was something. He just felt it. And then he said, "Let's get Bart Ropley, who's up in Fullerton." And Bart is a brilliant brilliant drummer, Gretsch artist, Sabian artist also. And the three of us, we did a Zoom call and we were just chatting like the three of us are chatting. We were just sharing ideas, and it just really became obvious that we should be recording this and broadcasting it. And I just thought, man, what a great thing to be able to share with my students, you know, drum chat, get them engaged, get them involved, and then I could learn from these great guys, you know, and what we really wanted to do to start was just kind of create a community for drum teachers to network, and so it's grown to more than that now. I knew we needed one more person, and I was a good friend of Jeremy Steinkohler, who's a drummer up in the Bay Area. His book, I'm going to give him this book is one of the best books you'll ever read. It's all about being a drummer, finding the groove.
Wow.
Cool.
Great title.
Oh, it's about lessons from a life in drumming, teaching, and performing.
Wow.
This is a great book. I know it's digital on Hudson Music too. So, you know, I was a big fan of Jeremy, and you know, Jeremy's like a jazz guy, kind of a New Orleansy guy. Bart played like kind of classic rock, Southern rock, all round. I'm sure I'm missing a lot. Everybody can play everything. Chip, you know, we've all seen his videos. He's one of the best showmen, like stick tricks and all those twirls. And then what I do, and coming up with a name was really, really tough. And so we initially were Drummers Education Network. And that name was too close to the Sabian Education Network. And we're all Sabian artists. Chip's a Paiste artist. And we just like, oh man, oops, it was just too close, too close of a name. And so we realized that. So we went through a few names, and then we ended up on Drummers Education Connection, deck, short. So
I like that.
yeah, and so hey, you're on deck, and so every week, nearly every week, we do an hour-long episode Tuesday mornings. We have the Facebook group, and initially we just wanted drum teachers, and that was it. And what we were doing is interviewing mostly drum teachers and sharing knowledge exactly what you guys are doing. So we have so many different parallels, and then. So what we do is it's live though, and so no edits. So man, you get what you get.
You're braver than we are.
Well, yeah.
I know, man.
The reason I record is because I know myself. It's better not to be live.
You know, all kinds of things work, and so what's really nice is the live feed. On the Facebook group, members can chat with us and ask questions to the people that we interview, and so simultaneously we're streaming onto YouTube Live, and then everything is cataloged. You know, it's all archived on YouTube Live and on the Deck Facebook group too. So
Excellent.
I would love to have you guys on. We could
anytime. This part I'm not taking out because I want this on YouTube, so you're going to be accountable to that.
Oh man, you know, and just yesterday we interviewed Greg Bissonette.
I saw the flyer. Yeah.
Oh man, yeah, it's up on you can find it on either of those.
Yeah, I know.
What an inspiration. And so Greg is just in an endeavor with I don't know if you're familiar with it. It's Drum Together. Dom
I saw the video literally an hour ago. I watched it and I just thought, what? This is amazing.
Oh my God, I got a little emotional when I first watched it. You know?
Yeah.
And so right, you've got Greg Bissonette. Ringo started it, and I guess they wanted to record Come Together, and Ringo came up with, well, I'll go, and Jim Keltner, and then Greg, boom. and then somehow that turned into 100 drummers playing. And so while we had Greg on the show, Ringo called in.
Wow.
And no, but he called into Greg, not to the show.
I know,
So
but
he called into
even though-
Greg, and the phone rings, and Greg picks it up. Greg, it's Ringo. And he's like, I gotta go. And we're like, oh, we heard Ringo's voice on our show.
Wow. That's
You can
so
say
cool.
we had Ringo.
Yeah.
We had, I know, right?
Yes.
But I got the kind of the heads up on it because, you know, Gene Hogan was on it. You know, he's peppered throughout it. And, you know, Gene is a drumming genius and the best by ear player I've ever heard. And he just has this memory for hearing a song. And I mean, it's a practiced, refined skill, but he's also, I think, like just the ultimate natural at playing by ear. So they had a ridiculously huge chart. If you hear this song, it's like a 10-minute long song. I mean, it goes from Beatles to marching to funk to jazz to prog. It's all in there. And the charts that you'll see the people who wrote out charts, you know, in the video, and the pages and pages. And Gene brought me the chart. He goes, what is this stuff? Like, all right, it's this and that, but Gene didn't need to ask me. He could figure it out and by ear. And so Gene laid down his tracks, and apparently Dom said to Gene, you played the chart like you wrote it. Gene didn't even read, so.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay, I would like to know, what do you find the hardest to teach?
I find the hardest to teach when someone picks out a song that is completely over their head and they don't have the background to be able to pull that off, and to try to explain to them that we've got to develop it. It happens quite often. I don't know that people quite understand that this instrument is an instrument that's kind of complex. And so I do, and that can be any song, any style, but I do get a lot of people who want to start with Rush, you know. So, yeah, or like,
Yeah, I
we just
know.
want to play Bonham. But okay, so it's kind of my job to do my best to help get them there, to kind of maybe create a watered down version of it, or what I might just call like a student version of it. But, you know, I'm working with near 50 students right now, and we have our deck show. I really am not going to take 2 hours to transcribe a song for somebody. So I've just got to kind of give them the basics. So I might say, well, in my volume 2, page 3, here's kind of what Bonham's doing, sort of, and let's get that down and build it up so that at least they could kind of like play along with it. And so, yeah. And then the other big challenge I think that, and we all realize is, you know, people on social media, you know, if somebody hasn't practiced and they want that instant gratification, you know, they've got to put a little time and effort into it. So when they think they're going to get like take 3 lessons and be a rock star, that can get
That many? 3 lessons?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
Yeah,
you
I
know
know.
what? There's nothing like I find that if they can even do any kind of version, they're pretty happy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, and that's the beautiful thing. That's what's wonderful about being a teacher, is seeing people inspired, you know. Especially I'm seeing now about half my students are women. And thank God, because women are great.
They're the best.
Women
They
are the
are.
best.
I love
know,
women.
Are the best.
You know, where would we be without women,
Yes.
right?
Nowhere.
No, in trouble.
We wouldn't even be born.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. You know, and you know, I find that women are willing more so than men, not everybody, but really are okay with learning to read music and and slow it down and really understand it rather than just sort of like winging it and rehearsing in mistakes.
I always tell this as a joke, but it's a fact. A guy comes for lessons. On his second lesson, he's already talking about touring.
Yeah.
A woman comes for her lesson. After 3 years, she still thinks she's not ready to join a band.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Oh, that's a whole thing. Yeah, my husband's always saying women just don't, they don't have the confidence sometimes, but they, overthinking stuff.
Yeah,
You've told me about this as well, Felipe.
Yeah,
but
good.
it's just like it's such a weird, I don't know, what is it, blocker? I suppose that some of us have, I suppose, but there's no need for it. Just don't,
Exactly.
don't do.
What I always do is like if somebody can just get my first page down in the first book, which has 16 backbeats with kick variations. It's paired with a couple hundred songs. Like if you can do that, which you can, well, then start jamming with people. And everybody who starts jamming, whether it's serious or fun, those are the drummers that evolve.
Exactly.
And it's just so great to see so many women drummers. And Kira, congratulations to you. I've been watching your videos. All your odd time stuff is just really, really cool.
Thanks.
And what was your background? How did you evolve drums?
I don't know. I just heard someone drumming and I just always wanted to drum. Like I was really a massive Michael Jackson fan.
Yeah.
And because he's so like, percussive and all that stuff, I was like, come on, I want to drum. And when I was 16, my parents were like, okay, you sort it out yourself, you get lessons. So I did. And I found a teacher and just, that was it. It was like, I have to do this because there's nothing else for me. I have to drum because it feels so good. And,
Yeah, you got the bug. And that's great. Congratulations, you're doing this show. And I don't know of any other women doing drum podcasts. So I'm sure there's many out there that.
There is. There's Sarah Hagen.
Yeah. Okay.
She worked, I think, with Zildjian for a long time. She's got this cool backstage thing. She's got some amazing guests.
Oh, we'll have to check
her
that
out. She's seriously connected. But yeah, it's nice to see lovely ladies drum.
No doubt.
I enjoy it as well.
It's so fantastic.
Okay, guys.
Cool.
That's it for this episode. Thank you very much, Rick. It was amazing.
Thank you.
Really good.
Enjoyed it. Loved it.
Oh my God, you guys, I'm a fan. It was a pleasure and an honor. And it's so great to finally meet you. And I'll be sending you some books. So we'll.
Thank you very much.
Oh, that's really kind.
And if everything works out fine, I already invited Kira, but I don't know if she's going to go. But I'll try to go to the NAMM show in June because 2022 is going to be in June.
Oh yeah.
So we need if I'm heading to California, I'll let you know, and then we're going to meet for a coffee.
Oh, that would be amazing.
Or a beer,
Or a beer. Yeah.
Coffee with Rick is a little bit dangerous because the last one who had a coffee ended up marrying him. Yeah, so no. Let's go for a beer.
It was fun. Thank you guys.
Excellent.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
you.
Bye.
Bye.